A big Tait Fletcher.
Powerful Tait Fletcher.
Is a real alpha male.
Weightlifter.
He's a stuntman.
Movie star.
Robust, enthusiastic individual.
He's huge, by the way. He's like a monster person.
One of the sweetest guys I know.
He's bigger than life.
Actor.
Entrepreneur.
A fighter.
The jiu-jitsu technician.
He's also bald and he has all these tattoos. He's just a big fucking man.
A man, a myth, a legend.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher.
What's up, Tait Fletcher, you fat motherfucker?
Tait Fletcher. Tait Fletcher is
Tait Fletcher.
Teddy bear motherfucking Fletcher, ladies and gentlemen.
That's Tait Fletcher, everybody.
The great Tait Fletcher. Tait the animal Fletcher. Tait the savage Fletcher. Always moving. There's no stillness with Tait Fletcher. You will find no dust.
Tait Fletcher's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. He just said the word erection.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher's in the fucking house. Tait Fletcher!
Tait really blasts out some serious hardcore truth bombs, and I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Boy, how exciting is this? I just heard Jodie Esquibel said the dirtiest word just now off the air, and then I was like, I gotta just start hitting record, and we gotta get this thing going. You guys won't believe. I mean, maybe listen. I don't want to say it on the air, but I'll tweet you guys later. Okay, what it is she said, right? Because lordy. Wow, Jodie, I didn't know you had it in you. You know, for a little tiny, sweet, demure woman with such kind manners, you really bring the thunder. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. It's always a fresh experience. So where are you coming back from today? You're all dressed up, and like I've never seen you in this kind of fashion before.
I had to wear a collar.
A collar.
Yeah,
collared Not like
shirt.
A priest collar, everybody,
no.
but a collared shirt.
And I didn't have
one. More like
one.
a golfer.
I didn't have one, so I bought a little boy's one at Target.
That's so good.
For like $7.
I asked her where'd she get the shirt from. She's like, it's a little boy's shirt. And of course. It's either
cheaper.
Little John's or a child's shirt.
It's cheaper. I went to class.
Can you imagine how much my clothes cost? Just per square inch. It's fucking ridiculous. You went to what class?
I went to a class on Entitled CO2 because I am currently getting back into the field practicing paramedicine.
And what is paramedicine besides you're jumping out of helicopters to save SWAT team members and things like that?
Just not just an EMT, an EMT, but there's different
levels. So you belittle other EMTs.
No.
Like,
well, yeah, that's why paramedics do that. We have a complex.
So, okay.
Yeah. So there's EMT
So you're better
basics.
than other EMTs.
I'm more...
you're more human than human.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm more educated. Like you go...
More educated.
You'd go longer to school.
So this is like
EMT
you're
basic, intermediate,
you're
paramedic.
A nurse practitioner, and then you become like maybe a physician's assistant, and then you become a doctor or something. Is that how it goes?
Right. Then paramedic is the highest level of care in the field, unless you're a doctor that's practicing in the field, which doesn't happen often, and is actually quite scary.
And so in the field, you're going to treat gunshot wounds and
911 calls,
compound fractures and things like that.
Grandma doesn't feel well. Every 911 call that you get,
How many people are fat that you show up to their house?
97%.
Is that the ones that are like always in trouble? Those are the 911 people?
Oh yeah. It's a fair amount of people.
How much fat are we talking about? Like 100 pounds overweight?
I would say 50 to 120 pounds.
So this whole episode is just going to be called Fat Shamers. And, we're going to start a television show about it. About how you're a draw on society.
It's a sickness right now. It's
weird.
Yeah.
Isn't that
weird?
It's a
sickness.
I used to eat like that. I'd feel out of control about what I was going to put in my mouth. It's like, how is this? How do these chips keep going in my mouth? And I go, because they're goddamn delicious. And then I would have this schizophrenic talk with myself about how I wasn't going to stop no matter what I did.
And it's exactly what drug...
I was single at that time, too. You can't really be in a relationship and talk to yourself like that all day long because nobody else understands you.
It's the same chemical release that sugar has as drug users, right? So
that's what they say. It mimics opiates and stuff a lot.
Right? Yeah. So sometimes you're like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't stop. Or
they say gluten does that too. That'll do that.
Withdrawals? You actually go through withdrawals? Come on, man.
Yeah.
We're drug addicts.
Yeah, I like that. Dude said one time, I forget what book it was I read, and he goes, I'd like you to consider that food is the most powerful drug that you'll ever put in your body, and nobody even thinks about it.
I agree 100%.
And it's like, that's a crazy thing to think about, but it totally happens. I know that when my eating settled, like when I learned more about eating, then my moods calmed down, my sleep got better, and then I started using food as a drug. Like I would have friends that would take Ambien and shit like that. Fuck, man, I eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, I'm going right to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm like so sugar sensitive that I crashed right out, and I was like, this is way better. And this is like, I think what like Dr. Andrew Weil and guys like that talk about eating back into health, like bringing yourself back into a state of normalcy through your food instead of thinking I'm somehow abnormal and I need pills to be able to regulate myself.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So as somebody in the field, do you think, I mean, how much of the stuff that you run into is like tragic stuff, a stabbing or this or that, or like self-inflicted, like, you know, diabetic comas or something, you know what I mean? It's like how much stuff is avoidable that you see as a first responder?
I would say that very high percentage, maybe 60% of 911 calls are people being unhealthy.
Crazy.
You know, yeah, you get a car accident, you get a gunshot wound, you get whatever, but you're having chest pain.
And those are the ones you want to talk to. Those are
Yeah.
the ones you want to go, like, you tell your family about.
Those
and the
are
rest
the
of them was
call-
like,
yeah.
this guy was fat, and you know.
And he had a heart
Right.
attack, so now he has chest pain. But how long has this been going on? Oh, it's my third triple bypass,
Crazy.
and I haven't changed my eating or my
That's what they
diabetes.
say about
You know,
the stomach staple too. They're like, people will eat that and rip right through it.
yeah.
Which
That is, you are insane. Like that is
crazy. That's
sick.
an insane. That's I
You are
mean, I
sick.
relate to it as a junkie in a way like that. But it's like, fucking reel it in, guys. Get your shit together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like that's
you
crazy.
talk to junkies that you bring them back. They OD. Okay, cool. Narcan, push Narcan. Okay, now they're up and awake. Oh man, I just OD'd. I know.
And
Oh,
they
how
run
much
back
did you
to the
do?
dope house.
Okay, cool. You have open sores on your arm because you're shooting up again, and it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. I'm just looking for my next high.
Yep.
You know,
And you
and
think
that's
it's normal.
crazy.
You go, oh, that's the way life is
Yeah.
built for.
It's normal. It's normal to be 50 to 100 pounds overweight, right? Like
Yeah.
it is. I was at that class today, and they broke for lunch, and they had
How many people when
pizzas.
you're in a health practitioner's class are overweight themselves? How many of your
That's
peers?
insane to me. That's what's the craziest
Because I walk
thing
through
to me.
hospitals and shit, and I'm like, you
How about
guys
when
all
they're-
with the name
yeah.
tags are all, at least, I mean, minimum 30
30
pounds.
pounds.
If you're 30 pounds overweight, you look healthy comparatively to everybody else. It's
Right.
like, and like right now, like, I feel like I'm probably 15 pounds overweight, but I can see my abs. Like, and
Right.
like it's like,
Yeah.
set a different standard for yourself, for God's
But
sakes.
you're going to tell me you're going to go to the hospital, and I'm going
And
to
I'm
tell
gonna
you,
get
hey,
health
you know
advice.
what, Tait, man, you really need to look at your life, man.
Yeah.
But I'm 50 pounds overweight. Yeah, right.
It's wild.
And especially at 911, how would I ever dream of giving somebody advice
Right.
being
When you're not
unhealthy?
master of your own
when
body
you don't
already.
care about yourself.
And when your thing is, I don't want it, like nobody ever says, well, what I need you to do is start eating more vegetables, eat some meats, and I want you to exercise 20 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody says that. They're like, here's a pill for, here's some statins, here's this, here's that.
yeah.
Like, it's like crazy. Like we don't teach people to get back into health. We teach them how to mask their ailments.
Right. My dad just went to get his physical, and they said, man, your high blood pressure, it's been high the last 2 times you've came in, so we're going to go ahead and put you on this med. And I was
Right.
like, the hell you are going on meds, Dad? Like,
Right.
you're not going on meds. Did they ask you what you're eating? No, they didn't. That's weird, because I think you need to lose 15 pounds.
You're like,
How
let's
about
go
we
through
do
your
that?
diet real quick, and then we'll get you on a different thing, and we'll retest your blood in a month.
Yep, that's exactly what we did, and so we changed his eating, went back again, and they were it was like, what did you do? This is miraculous healing, you
Right.
know? And it was like, oh really? I just took sugar out and I
There's a
stopped
guy at
eating
our gym
bread.
that had the exact same thing. I mean,
It's
he's
insane.
maybe he was 100 pounds overweight or something, and he came in, and how crazy is this? It's like he doesn't come in to go, oh, I want to do a fitness class, or I don't want to do CrossFit or anything like that. He goes, I want to do jiu-jitsu, which is like, if you're already in poor health, like that's a hardcore thing to kind of be like, I mean, people go for other choices. It's like, I just really admired his mind in that way and stuck to it and all that. And then he starts drinking MCT, and he's on all the medicine, the diabetes medicine, the heart medicine, all that stuff. And he goes to his doctor a month later, and every time he was going to take insulin, he drank MCT or something like that. He did some crazy thing that he like thought up himself after he read a couple books, like read a Rob Wolf book, talked to Nate and Ruben a bunch about like, what's this MCT? What are you doing? And they're like, they talked about regulating your pancreatic secretions of insulin and things like that. And then he talked to his doctor a month later. His doctor says, well, you're down 30 pounds. And he says, your blood work's good, but it doesn't really make sense because there's nobody that drops that much in a month. He says, well, I want to stop taking the meds, man. And they go, no, you can't stop taking the meds. In the meantime, he's stopped taking the meds already.
Right.
And then he comes back a month later, he's another 40 pounds under, like dropped more weight. And they're like, your numbers are perfect.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I've been off them. They're like, we're ready to get you off the meds. He says, I'm all right. I've been off the meds, and here's what I've been doing instead. I went into a ketosis type of diet, and since I've been eating ketogenically, everything's changed in my life. Like it's crazy, and it's like, but that's a real solution that I empower somebody with, rather than I disempower them and give them a pill or whatever.
Right. And it's like disbelief, there's no support. Like, man, well, that's great.
No,
it's like,
whoa.
They
look at you like you're an outlier.
We'll just get you a different
Like maybe that worked
pill.
for you, but that
it's not
going to
work for everybody.
Yeah.
No.
It's crazy.
You're one case.
I have a friend. He's so into how he eats. He eats Hot Pockets and shit like that. And he's like 56, and he takes insulin because he got type 2 diabetes later in life because his diet's fucked up. But I was like, man, I could show you how to eat that. You don't have to do that. And he goes, no, man, I really like my food. I like how it is. And he won't even talk about having a different experience with food. I'm like, I like food too. I enjoy the shit out of everything I eat, but I don't eat in a way that's going to give me diabetes,
Right.
And it's weird. Like it promotes a lifestyle where it's like, here's a quick fix for whatever it is that you've made that is now miserable in your life.
And you can keep your life. You don't have to change anything. Like, you just keep eating shit all the time, and you can just take this pill. It's fine.
And for sure, you'll get ass cancer later. You'll get throat cancer.
What is the warnings with all those meds? Oh, you're going to have. Like, I would rather just have the shit that I'm going to try to treat.
I got a virus one time. I was thinking about that with mental illness, and like the ones like that really need it, like schizophrenic people. And then they say, oh, they start feeling better, and they stop taking their fucking meds. I had a horrible, horrible stomach virus where I shit in my bed. I must have shit 30 times that night, and then it's like... it was awful. It was the worst. And it lasted for 2 weeks. And the people at the pharmacies were like, yeah, it's going around. It's 2 weeks. You just need to take this Imodium AD or whatever. Anyway, before I found that Imodium AD, I went into my apartment. And I fucking go up the elevator in my building. I'm walking, and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable. Like, it was as a fucking full-grown adult 2 months ago. I am shitting in my pants at the door, looking at my shoes, hoping it's not leaking out. It's like a horror movie. I'm trying to get the code to go into my door. I mispunch it. It goes in, and I can't stop. And I thought, man, I didn't take that Imodium AD because I thought I felt better. And apparently I didn't really feel better, and now this is the result. And I have to walk directly into the shower and hope that it doesn't leak out my pant legs. It was awful. I can't believe I'm telling this story. And then I thought, how great would it be is if crazy people didn't take their pills, if they just shit their pants first. If you could get them, like that's science, get them to shit, because even crazy people don't want to shit their pants.
Right.
And then they'll always take their medicine to be right from the schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a little departure, I guess. God.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Mental health, yeah.
So your ass kicking career, how many asses are you going to kick this year? Do you have a schedule yet? Are you only going to kick boxing asses, or are you going to kick Invicta asses too? Any
asses that I can kick, I will. Yeah,
You're happy to do that.
Yeah, it's fine. I want to stay super busy and active for the next couple of years. How
come Invicta's so slow right now? Is it because there's just that one real promotion and there's a lot of girls?
Yeah, I think so, and I think they're just trying to get everything right. I trust Janin. That's Julie and Shannon.
Either way,
mixed.
And Shannon.
So Shannon Knapp and Julie Kidzing, they have the best women's MMA organization.
Yep.
And I think that they're just trying to get everything right, and I believe in them, and I believe in the organization, and it'll come together, and they have a lot of girls that are super eager to perform, and we're always going to say there's not enough fights, so
sure.
With that, they're grateful enough to allow me to box and allow me to fight outside of the organization to stay active, and that's what I want to do, is just stay active for the next couple of years, and I'm getting up there. And
what'd you say?
I'm getting up there in age, and
listen,
to be competing as a mixed martial artist at a high level.
Don't you feel though also that like women compete better at an older age than men do.
I agree.
Like
yeah.
a 40-year-old woman is different than a 40-year-old man in competition. You
that's
see
true.
Olympians that are 42, as females, and you don't really see that as men.
I agree, and I do feel like, and it's super
They
cliche.
say after you have
and
a
very
baby, you're even a better athlete.
Yeah, that's cool. Like I wouldn't. I'm sure I'm still going to be competitive in some sort.
Right.
But I
sure.
don't think I'll
like
be.
You'll have a time trial for your baby, like it's 4 minutes of labor, and that was it.
Yeah, it's not
Something
a big deal.
like that.
Yeah. How long was yours? Like we can compete.
Yeah.
But
Nobody. That's a world record. It's still the title holder.
It's not a big
If
deal.
somebody breaks it, you go ahead. Well, fuck. I guess I have to have another baby now.
Yeah.
Going for 3 minutes.
What's that time? All right, got it. And that's. I think that's just why I want to compete now and get it all going and open the next chapter eventually and just fighting is so selfish. Fighting is we're stupid, selfish
it's a self-absorbed
people,
kind of
and
thing.
It's me and my training and my nutrition and having I applaud all the females, even and males that are parents as well, competing at a high level. Because I don't know if I could do that, nor do I want to.
Do you find it different? You're one of the few people that goes back and forth. There's a lot of MMA guys, not a lot, but there's a few now that are going into take boxing matches, or you're seeing I think Tyrone Sprong just went and he did a straight boxing match, right?
Yeah.
And which is odd, I thought, as a kickboxer, like a clinch in boxing is a very different kind of clinch than in kickboxing, and to separate that stuff, like, do you ever feel? Your background is boxing though, but do you ever feel like maybe now's a good time for a front kick and set up combination, or do you ever have to withhold, or have you ever thrown knees or anything like that?
I think I got warned in like a boxing match for like a big frame, but like Mayweather fights with a big frame, sometimes it's just kind of posting out on that frame and
that's illegal in boxing.
You can only
who the ref is.
It really is, and that's another thing about boxing. It's very up to your interpretation.
Very
right?
friend oriented.
I fought in New York, and I was like, man, I'm really working on my overhand, and I felt like I won the fight. I have the tape; it's on the internet, and everybody's like, oh, you won the fight, and I was like, yeah. Well, I didn't. I lost a hometown decision, and what one of the refs had said that he overheard the judge talking about. She threw a lot of MMA punches.
How silly is that?
Yeah, and I was like, and that.
How crazy is that? That would be like in an MMA fight if they're like, oh, he did a spinning back fist and he knocked him out. I kind of want to disqualify him. We don't see that very much.
Yeah.
They just brought the Matrix into reality, and you're upset about it. Like, what are you talking about?
I was like, I'm pretty sure it landed. Like, it was more of a power punch, and they were used to, a 15-punch boxing combination where I was throwing big, heavy hands, big power. And it was something that I had worked on. And in my head, I was like, man, I really want to work on my overhand, mostly for MMA. But this boxing match in New York, nonetheless, not the best MMA savvy type crowd, commission type people, and
old school East Coast commission, all that
smooth
stuff is hard.
boxing, and I that probably wasn't the best game plan that I had. But now I feel like I'm working on my boxing, and I've been working with Danny Romero a lot, and I feel like 100% I can outbox anybody in my weight class anywhere in the world right now.
Do you feel like then, you being a little shorty, like you're always smaller than your opponents, right? You're like
majority
by inches, right?
Uh-huh.
As far as finding your range, like you wanting to be a close fighter, is that something like, how do you overcome that? Big overhands, lunging in and then working, or what?
Well, and that's kind of crazy, and that's one thing that Danny and Senior has taught me as a boxer, is that I've had that complex for so long. Like, oh, I'm always going to be the shorter fighter, so I'm going to have to fight this way. Well, really, in fact, my jab is super long for how short I am, and I was holding myself back in the mindset of I'm always going to be the shorter fighter.
Right.
And Danny showed me that man, my jab is going to kill some people, and getting past that. And maybe it was just a mindset, and I don't care. Like, I believe in what they're teaching me, and I feel like I can fight almost better outside now than I can inside.
Killer. And
so it's like, man, how do I hit this transformation so far into my career and be like, wow, I don't have to fight as a short fighter.
It's awesome.
And in my last MMA fight, that was super apparent, though I broke my hand in the first round, so I really relied heavy on my jab and fought on the outside because I knew I wasn't going to be able to
And
throw
it
big
worked.
punches. Yeah, and it was like, boom, there's your jab.
Yep.
Though it was forced upon me because my hand was
course.
broken. But then it was like, man, I really believe. I
Yeah.
truly believe in that.
Yeah.
So
I remember that. Remember Uriah Faber when he broke both his hands and he just threw elbows?
yeah.
That was in strike for, I don't know what
How
it was.
about how Cub Swanson,
WC maybe?
like, are you kidding
yeah,
me?
I mean, seriously.
I was in a cast and I was talking to him like, oh, you know, like all of us fighters are so mental and we have, you know, these war stories or whatever. And I saw Cub, he was down here training and I was like, yeah. And he's like, how's your hand? And I'm like, yeah, it's good. You know, I broke it in the first round. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, you're going to be fine or whatever. And he's like, I remember one time I broke my hand in camp and then I went in and fought. And then I broke the other hand during the fight. And so I had 2 broken hands, but I thought, no big deal or whatever. And then he got x-rays and there was like 6 breaks or
Isn't that
something.
crazy?
And I was like, you know about my one break.
I don't,
like,
I don't
it's
know
not that big of a
anybody
deal,
that has
you know?
broken their hands like that as
Holy
many times,
moly.
you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I was like, well, I was thankful that it was Cub that he was here. And then I was like, nah, I really don't feel that bad for myself
It's
anymore.
crazy, man.
You
That's a
know,
tough
I thought
guy.
I was super tough, but
It's interesting though too, because then you go outside of fighting and you're like, you look at what stops people, at the things that you know. They're like, I was on set the other day and there's a guy and he came down and he was a super nice guy and whatever, and he's like, oh, you did MMA for a while or something. And I go, yeah, a long time ago, whatever. Like I don't try to talk about it a whole lot with people. It's just odd and I'm not in that venue and whatever. And he goes, yeah, I did MMA for a while. I was like, oh, fuck, great, here we go. And I go, really? I said, who'd you train with? And he was from Denver. And he goes, I'm like, he can't remember the guy's name. And then he comes up a few beats later with some dude that I never heard. He's like, oh, he was one of Nate Marquardt's guys from high altitude. I go, Nate's a really good friend of mine. I said, that's interesting. I said, cool. I said, right on, cool, you know. And it goes on. And I go, well, how long did you train for? Oh, just like 3 years or something. I'm like, so you're like a hobbyist. Like,
right.
let's like, don't embarrass yourself and say it's something it's not. And then he goes, yeah, I got these, my biceps popped. Like he had bicep tendon tears or whatever. And I'm like, I know guys that go right back like months after, and I'm like, that's the stopping point. I'm like, but that's a normal person and nothing against him. But like, it's like fighters are in a different way. It's like, I'll be training again tomorrow with a torn ACL or whatever. Like it, you know, or like what Keith did after the, when you know, the next day he's like, he already knows his knee is wrecked, but he's like, I'm going to go ahead and do this fight and we'll just get surgery the next day. It's already, and that's always kind of how I felt about injuries. I'm like, it's already fucked up. It's not going to be fucked up times 2. It's already fucked.
Yeah.
And so you'll deal with the discomfort, you go through the thing, and then that's it.
yeah. We're messed up though.
That's
Fighters
nice. That's
are
good.
fucked
That's the best.
up, you know?
It's the
We have
best.
some weird shit going on in our heads.
We'll see in 20 years what it all has the result of.
Ugh, I think every fighter should have like a counselor or a therapist of some sort to break down what.
I was talking about this the
I
other
really
day.
think it's mental wellness. I mean, on top of that, a lot of firefighters and stuff are coming out with PTSD and
Right.
police, and I'm like, man, I might setting myself up for some shit. You know,
yeah.
like
It's true.
honestly though,
Well, Imagine being a first responder and what that does to your head when you come across a baby that's been ripped apart by a car accident or by whatever like that. That whole mental aspect. I was thinking about that when you're talking about fighters and like that's a thing, you know, that is like. I wondered. I talked to Cowboy about it, and I got a lot of admiration for the Diaz brothers and all that, as everybody does, right? And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about one of those, I forget what they call them, but where they go behind the scenes before the big fights or whatever. And it might have been before his fight with Carlos or something. But I thought about how ill at ease he was when he talked about fighting. He talked about growing up and being on different playgrounds, getting moved from school to school, and always literally fighting for his life.
Right.
And he was saying, so when I go in the cage, he says, people think I'm a dick or whatever. And he gets a little defensive. He talks himself into defensiveness. So whatever you guys think about me or whatever, I don't show up for a press conference or whatever. But he's like, I'm not trying to be in a room with a guy that wants to hurt me. I want to kill that guy. I'm going to fight him, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't want to be around him, and I got feelings about that guy until after we're done fighting or whatever. And it's like, and that's super real for him, like an inherent danger. There's not a separation that. This is a sport that I'm doing versus I'm literally fighting for my life when I'm in the cage.
Right.
And there's not a lot of guys. I mean, there's like some dopey dudes that'll say that shit, but like he's one of the only people that I'm like, that's really where he's at. And I thought how nice it would be, like a freedom to get outside of that and to be like work through whatever it is and all that kind of stuff. And I thought if he got better and he was more at ease with that, he probably wouldn't be the athlete that he is in that way. You know, that drive. Right. And so like, I wonder how much of our mental health or lack thereof is what promotes greatness, because there's that madness in Tyson or in Michael Jordan or in Tiger Woods or whomever.
Right.
The guys that are super great are all pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, the more crazy, the more, yeah.
Look at Diego.
Oh.
It's a wild man. And he's one of the longest fighting guys in the UFC right now.
Right.
You know? And I attribute all of that stuff to his mind.
Right.
You know, it's not like being the best athlete, it's not being the most skilled, this and that. But where he excels over everybody is his belief in himself and that, and kind of in a madness in a way that where it's like, God, that's...
How are you going to break that?
Yeah.
You can't break that.
It's
you
dope.
Right now, he's the best Diego that I've seen ever. Like, coming into this fight.
I just saw him hanging out the other day, but
oh my gosh, this guy... And people are like, man, it's the old Diego. Like, it's the old jumping on submissions and this just madness.
Aggressive.
Every Monday morning practice sucks. Like, you're mentally preparing yourself for Monday morning practice.
Right.
Like, this is it. This is a practice. It sets the tone for the week. Everybody's, you know, what's your excuse? You had Sunday off or whatever. Like, it's game time Monday. It's MMA practice. Let's go. Diego's fired up. He is there. Stretching 30 minutes before class, and he's getting the whole team fired up. Like, let's go Monday morning, baby. It's Monday morning. Let's do this shit. No holding back.
Wow.
And you're like, how do you not get pumped up? Like, how? And I'm like, I'm ready to fight
That's
right now.
That's an energized brother right
it's
there, man.
Great. After
that
practice, everybody's done, beat, tired. Everybody get up off their feet. Let's
seeing
get
him.
together.
I love that too. He's like,
shit.
everybody would leave, and he'd be like, "Come on, let's do neck exercises or something." I'm like, cool. Like, what are we doing? And we'd just be there in a towel, and we'd do bridges and shit for another half hour. He's like, let's do some abs real quick. And I'm like, what? Like, nobody works harder than him.
No,
I mean, that's the one thing too about the old team that was like. Yeah. And really, like he and Keith really leading that charge of the hardest workers that I ever saw, man.
Right.
I attribute that work ethic to them. And
yeah.
I told Little John I attribute my smile to him.
Yeah.
Like, nobody works as hard and suffers and is fucking happy and ecstatic to be suffering.
Right.
Like, that's a badass. I mean, I'm so grateful for for all of it, man.
And the thing about Diego is he is that hard worker, but he's gonna help. Like you said. So there you are, an hour after class when you were beat. When class ended, but you stayed with Diego because he was like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
So he brought you in to be a better person anyway.
Yep.
Like, whereas there's some guys where, oh, okay, I'm going to do an hour of sit-ups by myself.
No.
But to bring somebody else and be like, let's do this together.
We live off each other. Let's do this. I mean, it's team, man. It's team.
He's
beautiful in that way.
It's beautiful to see, and he looks
I'm
amazing
glad he's back
right
like that. That's so exciting to
he
hear.
Looks so good.
I remember I saw him fight Miles Jury, and I was like, and it really bummed me out because and you as a boxer, like, I know he works a lot on his boxing, but it depends what boxing guy you're working with. Because boxing is so much predicated on, we're maybe going to go 10 rounds or however long you're going to go. It's going to be a longer deal. And so I'm going to touch you as many times as I can so I can accrue points and I can win that decision. And so you're not really harnessing punching power in as much a way. Mm-hmm. And I felt like Diego was touching Miles a lot, but I was like, man, where's that old Diego where he's punching through that guy's head?
Right.
And do you feel that as a boxer going into MMA, that boxing is a hindrance, or do you see that phenomenon happening, or what do you think about that personally?
I agree. Like, that's why I think I lost that fight in New York, is because I was trying to punch through her head, you know, and she hit me 4 times on the way in, but damn it, my punch was 80 times harder than yours.
Right.
And so, in a way, playing the game, knowing when to play the game and when to not. When do you see besides Nate Marquardt, landing a 15-punch combination in MMA? Right. Like, if you're going to get hit that many times.
How pretty were Nate's punches like
God.
that when he'd string those together?
That's
amazing.
It was an art, you know. You're just like, man, that was 7 punches,
and he's touching you hard.
Yeah, and that wasn't pitter patter, you know. He is that's beautiful.
I can't imagine fighting him, like what his punches are like then, because he like in practice it's hard, even with little gloves. Like it's like this is going to be dangerous for everybody,
right?
You know, it's awesome. It was awesome.
I think so, and you're right about who are you working with as far as boxing. Do they understand what MMA is, and do they understand what you're trying to find that power? Mm-hmm. MMA is about that big heavy power that is scary to people. You know, it's not like, man, Jodie's combinations are awesome.
Right. No, people
Okay,
are
I'll just
terrified of
blow
Leonard
her out,
Garcia
take
because
her-
he's going to
yeah.
drop a hammer on you if he
Yeah,
touches
it doesn't.
you.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't matter which one's coming. There's not a setup punch.
No.
They're all hammers.
So it's important to who you're working with in your boxing. I think that's huge. I'm super lucky that Danny Romero understands, and the way that Danny
That's
fought.
another beautiful guy, man.
Man, Danny Romero fought knocking people out. So he,
Yep.
he's at what he fought at 118, 120. Like,
Right.
I can't say, oh, you were so much bigger.
Right.
I'm bigger than him right now. The way he used to fight at.
Yeah.
So
I was going to mention that.
you shut your mouth. I'm bulking. I'm thinking about jumping weight classes. Okay, it's winter.
I was going to ask you to jump rope a little today.
Yeah, probably not.
That's the funny thing too. That old boxing axiom of if you're somebody that wins decisions, you never knock anybody out. But if you're a knockout guy, you never win a decision because those guys throw themselves out, and then the other guy, it's just like you have to kind of decide like what kind of fighter am I going to be?
What
here,
are you going to be? What's your nature though? Well, like, are you that patient? Okay, cool. Okay, jab, pick. Okay, counter.
Yep.
Or are you like, I'm aggressive? You know.
Or I think where we saw it too, and the thing I think is beautiful is how it changes. And I always look to the Nick Diaz Carlos fight, always, man. And I never really appreciated before. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly, but we were on pause for a second. I had to take a coffee break. But I was talking about Carlos and the fight and like how it changed and how when you started seeing guys and it was the first time Carlos is a killer. Like he's
violent.
It's so exciting, I think, seeing those two because I always think of it like whenever you see Nick walk out and whenever you see Carlos, those two guys, nobody else is really like that. Diego's got a certain kind of specialness too in a way. But it's almost like there's no hatred left in the world because it's all embodied in those two guys. They suck it all up in them, and there's just anger and fury and hatred there, and it's fire. And it's like, it's crazy.
It's scary.
It's a more peaceful world when those guys are fighting somebody because they absorb all the rest of everybody's anger.
Carlos is like the sweetest dude ever.
It's a completely different thing. But the guy is a killer, and he finishes everybody. And whether it's submitting them or cutting them or knocking them out.
How about his last fight?
It is savage.
Yeah.
And then he goes in, and everybody's talking about, they're talking about George. And they would go, oh, well, he just lays and waits till, wears guys down or whatever. But it's like all those guys, every guy that was just a death finisher guy, they go into championship rounds. And it's like the game changes, and you saw it, and that's when I really learned it because I was like, I wonder why he doesn't fight the same anymore. And there's 5 rounds, and so to ask a guy to sprint for 5 rounds, you're talking about 29 minutes. A guy has to be at full tilt or 90% or something and going, and you got to fight differently. So then you've got to win the rounds.
Right.
You're not in the position where it's like because if I shoot it early and I got 3 rounds of fire, I can just try to finish. But if it's 5 rounds and I don't hit the mark, I'm going to be sunk in the 4th, 5th round.
Right.
And you watched it change to where he stuck to a game plan and didn't get drawn into all of the madness of Nick's slugfest. And I was like, that. I couldn't. What I really admired so much was staying that conscious. He was that disciplined in his mindset to where he's just rigid, and he's like, "I'm sticking to this game plan no matter what," and it worked beautifully.
That focus is unbelievable. And I recognize that in people because I have
so
such
tiring
focus issues. Like I'm like, man.
Right.
And Danny was a big indicator of that when I would go to his gym and it's like, okay, cool, shadow box. And I shadowed like 3 combinations and then I'd be looking at pictures on the wall and he's like, what are you doing? Focus. Right. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then every time he would be calling me out, it was like, man, he's consistently just calling my name. Like I clearly have a problem. I remember fighting in Colorado and early on in boxing. And I remember in the middle of a round looking out into the crowd and seeing a woman in a purple shirt and being like, oh, that's a pretty color, purple.
I love that color.
That's a nice color. And then I'm like, you're in the middle of our boxing round and you're noticing some lady's shirt.
People
like,
get knocked out is
you
when
have
they
a
lack
problem.
focus. Yeah.
Like you have, and it's 2-minute rounds in boxing or
so
whatever.
Interesting.
Like now 5-minute rounds, you know, and that's been an issue that I've really worked on, and now I feel better about it. But like I recognize when people have that. John Dotson is another guy that I feel has great focus,
Yep.
you know, and
which is his is even more heightened in a way. I think his weight, because you turn up the speed of the video game.
Right.
You have to pay more attention to more. So if there's 100 movements at 170 pounds in 5 minutes, at 125 pounds, there's 300 movements. So you're like 3 times. You have to amp your focus up. Like there's more happening in those moments.
Right.
And that's there's the first time I noticed was in a stick fight. It's the one thing that I got free in fighting. I was like, if you're not right here all the time,
right,
you're knocked out. You're getting hit in the head, and that's a wrap.
You're done. Yeah.
And it was like it taught me the importance of being hyper present, of being just right there. And it was the first time I'd ever felt like that lock into place.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is where God lives. This is like where that is. This is badass.
And that's crazy. That's funny. I just did an interview, and they said, why do you fight? And I said, because like that's the moment that's my peace. Mm-hmm. Like that's the one moment where I'm now. Yep. I'm here, you know, that there's nothing else you can be thinking about except being here. Any other time you're going 100 times, you know, you're thinking about all this other stuff and positive, negative, whatever. But in that very moment, you're here.
There's a consequence, you know? If you're not. And it's so steep that you just pay attention to being right there.
Right.
And I think also your brain switches. I think you go into a flow state under the best circumstances, and you become something different. You become both the video game and the video game player. You're the controller and the game. You know what I mean? It's
right.
like you become a different kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's great. Like, man, and I think that's what the problem is with some people don't ever find what their outlet is.
Right.
Mine happens to be fighting, or you know, maybe it's painting or whatever art it is, whatever expression, you know. And man, if you don't find that, then I think that's where people find that negative or drugs or whatever. Like, I mean, that's the most high feeling I've ever felt is that flow state in a fight, you know? Like, I could never achieve that again. And that's what's scary. Like, you think about that. You think about drug addicts where they're like, man, they're just looking for that next high. Well, it's like, I fight because that's my high, you know? That's my flow state.
And
that's
also,
what I
believe, too, that you get into, I don't know if they're the same, but like to get into the discipline, I was never disciplined in any kind of way until I was disciplined by teammates in a way of like, if your conditioning is not as good as Jimmy's conditioning, Jimmy's going to run over you. Mm-hmm. Like even whether he's better than you or not, if you both suck equally, like you, and he's better, and I learned that, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, my conditioning's going to be good then.
Right.
And then that's when I started smashing everybody, and I was like, oh wow, you just wear them out, and then they're children, and then you know, and that was the first thing. And so I started paying attention to the details. My awareness about life rose. And in that, I became a more sharpened, precise instrument to do whatever it was. And that translated, I mean, people talk about it all the time about how fighting bleeds out into the rest of their life in a positive way. For sure, it was the first place. And as far as replacing drugs and that Zen kind of state that we go into, that flow state kind of nature, for sure that had something to do with me being able to remain sober, especially in like the early years of that for me, because I was fucking everywhere. It was the first place I found peace. Right. I'm just fucking trying not to get strangled or trying not to get swept or whatever. And I was like, oh man, and then I didn't notice it until later, but I was like, wow, I was free for that whole time. I didn't think about any of my troubles.
At all.
You know, and when I stopped thinking about my troubles died of neglect. Right. And they just went away. And then the good stuff started to get better. And I was like, fuck. So grateful for all that. Yeah,
that's crazy. And it's I'm so thankful for finding that, you know, like I said, people have to find that ability to neglect the negativity, you know, and what is that vehicle? Where are you going to find that? And is it positive
or not? Because for sure going and having a dozen beers will help you negate everything. It blacks it all out. But like, what are you doing in a way, you know, anymore I just look to it and I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to drink anything, or I don't want to eat anything, or I don't want to do anything or listen to anything or watch anything that's not going to make me better tomorrow.
Right.
Like if it all is about like that's, and I'm trying to care more about myself in those ways. Although I did buy malted salt and vinegar chips last night, but I haven't opened them yet, but I'm going to.
I'm definitely going to. Yeah. You know, hey.
So you're like a unicorn in a way for me. Like I was like a lot of guys where I was working in a nightclub as a bouncer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guys are personal trainers, or there's, you know, people do the job that they have to do in order to do the thing that they love to do, which is
Right.
fighting. You're a high-level professional. And I'm wondering, I mean, to me, that's like akin to like, well, yeah, she does corporate law, and also she kicks all the ass. Like, that is a tremendous amount of discipline. And where did you get those kinds of aspirations to begin with to go, I want to achieve these heights in this and also in this? Like, two very competitive and high-level fields.
You know, I think that in the beginning it might have been a healthy drive of my own ego. You know, like I felt like going in. I knew that I always wanted to be a firefighter. I knew that from the beginning of time. I thank my parents for not letting me think that it wasn't a female's world. Like, I didn't know that, oh, you know, females really aren't firefighters. You know, I didn't know that. My parents were like, cool, go get them.
Yeah.
You know, so I never thought like I couldn't do that. And so getting into the fire department, you already have a chip on your shoulder. Being a female going into a fire service, it's a male dominant world,
imagine.
right? Like, you don't, for history, why would you have a female in the fire department? Like,
Right.
where, you know, and that's fine. I understood that I was putting myself in that situation. I wasn't like, oh, I'm here. I knew
Right.
that I was going into that situation. So now what am I going to do with that? I'm going to perform at my very highest. I'm going to do my job the best that I can, and probably better than you are. And that's cool. And the first demanding of respect was that there was a male and female standard to get in, and the physical fitness.
Right. And you went after the male standard.
And I was like, well, I'm really confused, right? Because
Right.
when we pull up to the
You're
burning
like, a
building
standard
together,
is a standard. And if I got to get Tait's fat ass out of there,
like, I'm going to have to get his ass out.
He's not going to be at the female team.
Yeah, it's not. Is there a female house on fire that
Right.
I'm going to go to, or are we going to
Right.
go to the same house together with my brothers? So I'm going to go ahead and make that stance and let you guys know that I'm going to bust my ass to perform.
And so you did the males.
So I did the male, and they were like, well,
Physical.
you might not pass, and your score might suffer. And I'm like, I'm a professional athlete.
You're like, shut up, pussy.
Like, let's just run through it and we'll see, and
so you already boxing professionally at that time?
yes, I had turned pro probably the year before.
Right. You're like, I know how to work and
I'm
suffer.
like, yeah, like
let's go.
let's go, and of course that went really well for me, and I killed it. I killed the physical agility test, and not, just out of, I wanted that respect. I've always fought for that respect for.
Well,
with
and
the
more
fire
so
department,
too, like knowing you wanted that for yourself. Because
Right.
you're like, I'm not going to be substandard because they are in life. I'm going to run into all the body weights, or I'm going to whatever. It's
Right.
like I couldn't. Yeah, I can't imagine that would have sat well with you.
Yeah, no, and so that was kind of like the first. Okay, cool. So now we're in the fire department, and I'm living this amazing dream, and by gosh, I'm competing as a professional athlete, and I'm a firefighter, and this is amazing, and I'm just. What's next? Like, what do we conquer next?
Right.
What's new? And okay, paramedicine. Let's go to paramedic school and get more knowledge. Because I had a hellacious year, a year with a paramedic partner, and he was just brutal. He was the most extreme personality I had ever met in the fire service, and I had complete resistance to him in the beginning. Like, fuck this guy.
Right.
Fuck this guy. Like. And he's always like, oh, what dose is this? What are you going to do here? What are you going to do? Like, just in my
Like
face all the
needling you all
time.
the
And
time.
I'm like, fuck, man. It's the longest 48 hours ever. Just fuck off. And then we started running horrible calls and lots of codes and lots of pediatric code. And it was like this horrible year. But then I actually felt like I was prepared because he had been like, hey, what's your dose? What would you do here? What is
Right.
this? And I was like, I understood why he did that.
Under
now.
pressure, and when you're upset and like all that stuff,
Yeah,
you still
and it
can
was
make
like,
the right
man,
call.
He's the best partner that I've ever had.
Right.
And I would have never went to paramedic school if
Are
I
you,
hadn't
are you
had
guys
that
friends
year.
now, or do you go, yeah, that
Nope.
was a dick, and he moved on?
We're friends.
It's cool.
And it's so cool, and it's I would have never went to paramedic school. I would have never been engaged enough to be like, well, why? And he's like, well, do you ever think why? Like, we have a patient, he's unconscious, unresponsive. You got nothing. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Do you ever think why? What's going on?
Each
what do
moment
they
they're
do?
dying.
Why? What are you going to do? What? And it's like, man, I need more knowledge. After that year, I was like, I'm going to paramedic school, man. What do you think? And he's like, do it. Like, I think so. And it was like, man, okay, so that's the next thing we're going to conquer, right? Let's do that. We're going to paramedic school.
That's what they say about very smart people, is that they have like an ADD in a way, is that, like, I don't want just a black belt in this or a black belt in that. I want a black belt in coffee then, and a black belt in podcasting, or a black belt in acting, or it's like you get through certain things and you're like, that's what I did in that time of my life. Now I'm doing this, but there's always this craving. Like, somebody asked me the other day, they're like, what do you think a good friend is? Like, what's the best trait that you look for in a friend? And I go, all the people that are in my circle, they have a craving to be better than they were yesterday. They have a desire to grow. And I go, and I think that's it. And I said, I think the easy answers are, loyalty and fidelity and like honesty and trust. But like, we're all the same in that. Like, to me, that would be like noticing the differences of us all. I think there's two kinds of people. There's kinds of people that want to excel and strive to get better and are willing to be uncomfortable and to suffer to do that. And then there's those that are like, man, whether I'm too scared or whether I'm too whatever to do whatever, and they kind of rest back and they're like, this is good enough, and
Right.
And then, like, I've always been like, good enough sucks. Like, I don't want good enough. And I said, and those are my friends, because I will sit back and do nothing. And I need, on the days that I feel like that, I need these people to be striving so that I can look to something. I need to be inspired.
Right.
And so it's like, that's the thing about people like you. It's like a constant inspiration to me. And it's like, I need that. I need everybody, And that's like when I put that hashtag, like, I need you to try. It's like, I just want everybody to try their, like, because fuck, we're all dead anyway. So it's like, let's go and let's be the best at all this shit.
Yeah. What are you going to be what's next? Like, what? So it's okay. And which is cool. Like, for those people that, like you said, just get by, or what is it that's holding you back?
I don't want to talk shit on them.
People, right?
That's great too.
People. Yeah,
for sure.
And it's just.
But for me, I would suffer inside.
I would probably go. I would probably be unhealthy. Like, I think I would find that I would
shoot myself or whatever. It's like, when I talk all that shit, it's like I'm fighting all those natures in myself too. It's like, I didn't come out here going, oh yeah, excellence, let's get after that. Yeah. I did that as a byproduct of going, I've got such self-loathing if I'm not fucking trying to be better, and I'm never satisfied with my standard for myself. That's my thing, And that's the thing too about fighting. I was thinking, like, do you think of those firemen as kind of pussies? And I was like, that's not very nice to say about firemen. And that's not really what I mean. But like, comparative to you're deep in the fight world. You're deep in this other world.
Right.
It's hard as fuck to be a firefighter or a cop or any of that.
Right.
Like, that is hard stuff. And talk about your attention to detail. Like, you are just chilling and relaxing, but anything could happen. You kind of always have to have your spidey sense on, and you always have to be ready to perform. And people are counting on you. It's not just you that's going to get knocked out. It's like, people are going to suffer if you're not ready. And like, I regard that so highly. It's a huge, huge thing. But the training in that way, it stops at a certain point. You meet their standard and it's done. Whereas as a combat athlete,
right,
your standard is never good enough, because you're always trying to beat your standard of yesterday.
And somebody else is out there getting better too. So it's like, man, what did I do today to get better? And I think sometimes in medicine we get stuck on that. I think people are like, well, we pass the national boards and
this
you're
is the law of medicine and we're okay.
It's good. Well, we're practicing medicine just like we practice martial arts. So what did I do to help my patient today that is going to help them tomorrow? And
that's what's cool about like what you did today too. Really, like to go really into today is going, and you're into more learning, you're into more education.
It wasn't, and that way it's like, man, I just know that it's going to take over. This thing is this going to be the new gold standard? Well, so why am I going to be? It was a voluntary class, Am I getting paid for it? No, but am I going to be left behind? Yeah, I am. And is there going to be another? My ego, My ego
won't
says when that other medic rolls up and is like, oh, did you do end-tidal CO2? And I'm like, what's that? Then I'm not okay with that.
I'm the same as you.
I'm not okay with that.
I'm just fucking like that. I'm like, it's my what? Why do you strive so much? Because my ego. Because I talk shit to myself to such a high degree, and like all the stuff I do, I hear all these fucking dudes out there, and they're like, "Well, pay me," and like everybody thinks they're in a rap song or something, and it's like, meanwhile, there's a bunch of broke motherfucking rappers walking around with a strong Instagram game,
right?
And the deal is everybody I know that's really doing shit, they do shit for free for years. for
Right.
forever.
Right.
It's like, and they're doing it because they fucking love it.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes if you do the thing you love enough, that thing grows into the thing that you're doing. And then you're like, wow, this is how the universe works. I give myself with all my love and goodness to this thing. And then this thing grows. And then I do that with this thing and that grows. And it's like, that's what we're made on. I mean, those are the laws, these laws that are out there that nobody talks about. And while everybody's saying, no, just go to school, have this job, have a kid, get some Jesus, you'll be good.
Right.
And it's like, that is some weak, anemic fucking advice to give to people.
Good things to happen to good people.
And if you're, that's the thing. It was like the advice. I started listening to that, and then I was like, wait a minute. That guy's he's not happy.
Yeah.
And he's given me that advice to have his life.
Right.
And his life is garbage. And then I started looking at the sources, and I go, okay, be careful. If their life doesn't kick ass, I'm probably not taking advice from them.
Right. And where's this, where are we okay with? What's the standard of what's your baseline? What's your baseline? Like, today was a good day. I woke up at 8, I drank my cup of coffee and I went clocked in, clocked out and called it a day. And it's like, man, that sounds like I really messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, like we said, we're not talking bad about that.
No.
I just know that my personality, I couldn't do it.
I would kill myself.
I really couldn't do it.
The things that would make me feel good on the days that I was having the worst days is that I would show up anyway. And it's like, well, Keith needed a workout partner, or fucking this guy needed a phone call, and I was able to talk to him, and he was actually really lonely or whatever. It's like it all goes back into like, have you been of service anywhere in your life today and been helpful?
Right.
Or were you so self-obsessed with your own fucking self-pity or whatever it was that you didn't do much and you just fucking mailed it in?
Right. And I think one thing that was an eye-opener, I took a little bit of time out because I was training so much and being active in fighting is I was probably out of the field for about 8 months, working 911, I was gone. And 8 months is a long time. And I started to get nervous that I was going to start getting rusty because I want to be a flight medic when I'm done fighting.
God damn.
And so then it was like, well, what am I going to say? Well, I was fighting and now I'm ready to be a flight medic. They don't care.
Right.
Fighting, that sounds barbaric.
Yeah.
So that's going to give me no precedence in trying to be a flight medic. So one of the guys was like, hey, man, just start picking some shifts up just so you can say, hey, I stayed active while I was training and now I'm ready to be full-time. Okay, cool.
Did you talk to Joey about him going to be a cop?
Yes. He's going to be a firefighter. He's going to be a good guy now.
I mean, I ran into him and he told me the story and I was just like, and I'm talking about my friend Joey Villasenor, like an OG fucking pathfinder for MMA in New Mexico. Like him and Floyd Sword really, man, carried the torch back in the day.
Yeah.
And those guys, and there's a handful of dudes that are the reason why it is what it is in New Mexico. But Joey's one of the most beautiful dudes you'll ever meet, and one of the kindest guys. Taught me some of the best lessons of humility and kindness, like to anybody. And he's like a savage athlete. Anyway, he was a very well respected and a great fighter. And he goes to take the psych evaluation for the fucking police. And he's gone through all the stuff, and then they say, no, we think it would reflect badly. Everything's great, except we think it would reflect badly because they're afraid of your history as an MMA fighter.
Right.
And I can only think that that's because, like, if they get sued for police brutality or something later, and they can go, well, he was an MMA fighter, so he's savage or something. Like, they put it in.
Right.
Whereas, like, I think about it, and I'm like, if somebody knows what they're doing when they grab you.
Right.
Like, if that person is wrestled or something, already, like, they have body control. They understand body awareness. That guy, as a cop, is like, my choices are either to fight him and not let him arrest me, because I can not let almost anybody probably arrest me.
Right.
Or I've got to give myself to this person. And it's like a guy that is fumbling and shit, that's a dude apt to hurt me.
Right.
I'm less inclined to do a guy like Joey that knows what he's doing and all that and is confident and all that. Fucking wait, that's the guy I want. That is the guy that's safe. That is the guy that has a measured idea of who he really is instead of trying to prove something to himself. That's the exact guy you want to be a cop, and that's the guy they won't let be a cop. Right. And everybody says, oh, they need better psych evaluations for cops so we don't have as much police brutality. But the very psych evaluations keep the good guys out from being goddamn cops.
Right. That was the craziest thing I had ever even... I was
shocked.
I was shocked too. And then I thought, man, well, shit. Because I work very closely with the state police here. And I said, man, you know what? So I went and talked to my guys and was like, hey, what's the deal with this?
Right.
And I said, what if I want to, I'm vested as a firefighter. Now I want to finish my retirement out. But you know what? I want to be on the police side. So I'm going to try out for the police department. What are my chances of being turned down because I'm an MMA fighter?
Right.
Or is it going to be different now because, oh, well, she's a female and she can handle herself. We're glad that she has a mixed martial arts background.
Yeah.
And I said, what?
Where
I don't
is your
understand.
standard? Where's the standard?
What's the difference here, you know? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I don't know. And then the state guys were like, we'll take him, you know, because he was trying to go see whatever.
I bet they would, too.
And I was like, no.
It would be a goddamn honor. I mean, Jesus. Whoever would get to have Joey as an employee, whatever that thing was, it would be a fucking privilege to have that guy.
I can't. I mean, I'm coming from the fire department background. I think he's going to be extremely happy. And now that he's
better hours too.
Oh, 48 hours? Are you kidding me?
Great. Good for him, man.
Nap time, maybe. If
Anyway,
you're lucky.
yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip. How we're made up.
So there you go. You know, and now I feel that those lifestyles that I've found myself in, and whether it be fire department, now working with a TAC team, and the TAC team in itself is a whole different beast. You know, those guys run on a different level. You know, and experiencing, infiltrating their group as a medic. We don't need a medic. Talk about ego. They're the best of the best.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey.
Is it similar to like being in a fight camp or like in a gym, like where you walk in and you're new and everybody's like, okay, we'll see. And they just fuck you up and press you and try to get you to quit for the first little while? Is it the same kind of situation like that where they're like, nobody's super nice? Or
right.
Like,
yeah, I walked in and it was like, I walked into the briefing and naturally, so I'm a shit magnet no matter what. If I'm on call, shit's going down. If I'm like my first year as a medic, I probably had the most hellacious calls.
You got to get a different term because that's a horrible nickname.
Yeah, I know,
Hi,
right?
Jodie, shit magnet.
No big deal. Black cloud right here, baby. It's going to happen. And I was like, at my first year of paramedicine, I was like, I'm just killing people, you know? Like, this is insane, you know? I don't know. Maybe I made the wrong choice because every time I'm on call, every time it's my shift, it's like the worst calls. And people are like, man, are you all right? I'm like, well, shit. And then it was like, now you make a decision. You know, is this just like, do you give up now?
Right.
Or do you say, man, I was meant to be in this position and now I need to own it, you know? And that year, my first year of paramedicine made me a stronger medic, you know? And now it's like, cool, I've been here, I've seen that, I've done that, you know? And the first time I went to the briefing with the SWAT guys, I walked in and was standing in the corner like a yahoo. Nobody wanted to talk to me or anything. And they're like, they're going over what house they're going to hit and what number and you know, a game plan of sorts. And they're like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
In the corner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm the Thames medic.
Who's the little one over there?
Yeah. I'm your paramedic, you know, like, and at that point it's like, hey, game face, man, because these guys either are going to respect you or not. And so it's like, hey, I'm your medic and I'm here. Like, and I know what I'm doing. So let's do this. Okay. And finally, you know, it was just that infiltration of the group. And now it's like.
Do you ever leg kick any of them or anything like that?
Yeah, I know.
You never do?
No, I have to. You know what? They were like, hey, why don't you stay for a workout one night? You know, I don't say, hey, I fight or anything. But naturally, somehow somebody.
Well, of course they know. Something
happened and they're like, oh, you want to stay for PT? And I'm like, I don't know if you guys want me to stay for PT. You know what I'm saying? Like, so then it was like, all right, we're cool now.
That is
you know,
fucking awesome.
Once you can, it's weird. Culture's like, so weird.
I'll beat
right?
the brakes. I know you guys did your SWAT team hand to hand stuff. I know, but I'll beat the brakes off every one of you.
Yeah, right. Let's go. And it is funny. Once you're like, hey,
you got to be a trip walking in the room. They got to be like.
A fucking little mini me over here.
It's a little cutie there, 100 pounds. What you gonna do? What?
Yeah.
And then fucking you come in with all the ass whoopery.
Yeah. Then they're like, well, we'll just. So then it was really cool. So I'm very aggressive by nature, and I got approached to start this.
By very aggressive by nature too. Let's just put that into perspective. If you go, a lot of people, you can go and kind of like move around, like you're gonna maybe put your hands up, and if you do that to Jodie. She's going to already hit you 3 times. Maybe one kick will be in there also. By the time you're like, oh, I guess we're not really playing. She just is on like that. So that's when she says a little aggressive, she's more aggressive than anybody I know.
Okay. Yeah. True. And then they were like, hey, we're starting this new program. And we think you'd be great for it. We need super aggressive medics. And I was like, Thank you.
Yeah, you're a little wait, I'm offended.
You're
but
a little
I am
over-
aggressive, but
So
I didn't know they knew.
I think okay, cool. So I am aggressive in nature, by even with my medicine. Oh, your chest hurts, huh?
Cool.
So I'm going balls out to stop that, or
Right.
let's figure out what's going on here, and so that's what. In a tactical situation, you have to be aggressive. It's combat medicine at that point,
And fuck,
so
if, there's two people, like it needs to happen quickly. If there's
Right.
3 people hurt, you've got to, there's only one of you.
so let's be aggressive, and once you can, yeah. I don't
What
know.
are there plans? Are you gonna accept the UFC's invitation that they're bound to give you soon? What's going on?
I think they're just working it up. Yeah, I think
Are they
they're
just working up?
Yeah,
It's almost like asking a
details.
girl to dance or something. They're working up their courage to ask.
Yeah.
Is that what's
Uh-huh.
going on right now?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm hopeful.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see. And I, like I said, I'm happy to just compete at this point,
Yeah.
and I want to be active. I feel like I'm super cliche, but it's total. Every practice, I'm feeling like I'm that much better than the day before, and I'm finally at that point in my mixed martial arts career where I do feel like everything's coming together, and it's like, man, I have an answer for everything.
Cool.
And it's like, cool, I'll just try something else because I know that's where, and I'm finally working. I'm finally there, and it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who or what or where. Before it was like, oh, I don't know if that's a good fight, or hey, let's think about that. I don't care now. It's like, I don't care what matchup it is, what weight class, 105,
Right.
115, I'm good anywhere in the world.
That's awesome.
It doesn't matter. So I just want to
115's
compete.
better. I think that's smart. Also,
I'm also, and health reasons why.
All of it.
I mean,
All
it's
of it.
just I'm bigger than I've ever been, and
it's harder to
and,
come back from like the cut.
Yeah, who
Every
knows?
day you get older, the harder it is to come back from a
Absolutely.
cut. Like, all that stuff.
And I'm a big advocate for that, and we tried the IV policy here in New Mexico
Mm-hmm.
for the fighters after weigh-ins, and I was ahead of that, and we were there setting up IVs for fighters, and so people aren't doing it behind closed doors, and
Right.
I saw some weird shit go on with somebody's extras needles and who knows what, and their friend knows how to do it and watched a video
Whoa.
or whatever, and I'm like, this is insane.
That's
like, guys, this
crazy.
is insane. So I met with a commission
Those
here.
are the craziest
and-
fucking
yeah.
people that I meet are the people that have confidence where they don't merit any of that confidence. I'm like, how are you so fucking confident and
Yeah.
cocksure about what you're doing, but fuck all about anything? You almost need Velcro shoes. You're so dumb.
Yeah, it's
But you're
scary.
like, no, I'll get that needle. I'll just put it in. I saw this thing on YouTube one time. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and the thing is, fighters, what are you gonna say? No, I don't want an IV from you.
Right.
Like, they're gonna do that. They want to do that, and I was like, man, we just got to create this safe environment, and it's crazy how people's energy you can just believe because they say they know what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that's-
What do you think of the new gym?
it's amazing.
It's also
You know?
like Wink was telling me that it's already all like 30 rooms or whatever
They're
upstairs
rented
are all
out.
rented out
Yeah.
or whatever. That's so dope.
It's crazy. It's cool. It's cool to meet people that from wherever that is just. It's an honor to come for them.
It's
to,
a real
to-
international
and
gym
it's
now.
like.
All these Eastern Bloc wrestlers
Uh-huh.
and shit, and like it's amazing. It's cool.
It's amazing.
Are all the Mexicans still there?
We have a handful of Mexicans.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's dope, man.
Yeah. Classes are fun to watch for sure. They have no off button, like the we have a handful of people down from the Russian area, and it's just like they're wrestling and their energy. There's no 50%. Okay, we're drilling
Right.
now. People are getting.
They're like, my head,
Tossed.
my brother's head just got cut off back home, so,
Yeah, so we're
I'm
just
here
gonna-
wrestling the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And you're like, oh, okay, that's a little extreme.
Yeah, different.
And okay, so we're drilling. We're drilling now.
So what Cowboy was saying is like, yeah, those guys, I got no problem kicking their heads off. I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
he's just like,
Because they're gonna.
he's
Yeah.
like there. So he's like, though, if I feel like I need to follow through with a head kick or something like that, I just spar with one of these guys.
Yeah.
All right then.
And they are on the same page.
And it's kind of
You
like
know,
that.
they're
Like those
gonna
guys
go
that are
and-
built like that, they don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
And they're
It's like old
"Oh."
school Dutch kickboxers and stuff like that. They're like, this
don't
is just
care.
how we train.
Cool.
Don't take it personally. It's
Yeah.
just how it is.
And they're like high five after,
Yeah.
like you just knocked the shit out of
Yeah.
me. I'm knocked out cold, and they're like giving you a high five while
rad.
you're knocked out.
It's a beautiful spot, man. I love it.
It's cool.
I love it up there.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, huh?
Yeah, it's cool. Can't wait to see it grow. Well, do you got any sponsors you want to thank or anything, Jody?
Caveman Coffee.
Yeah. What about Caveman
What?
Coffee? What is Caveman Coffee? Tell us about that.
It's this thing with these Colombians. Does
Really?
that sound super suspect?
Well, maybe. You know, is it the white coffee that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first
Is it sold by the pound or kilo?
Kilo, I think. What? Huh?
Kilo G.
Huh? I think when I first started, when everything first started, and I think I was talking to my mom, right?
Yeah.
Talking about the white stuff came out,
Yeah.
and we're talking to the Colombians, and my mom's like, bless my mom's heart. She's like, do you need money? do you need
Are you
money?
in a rough spot?
Do you need to move home?
Is Keith in trouble?
What is going on? And I'm like, no, you got to try this.
I wish it weren't so
Mom.
far back in my texts that
Yeah,
I could
oh.
find the first text that Keith would send me. He's like, "Yeah, we got to get that white out there. We got to get a new bag for it, and the Colombians want to meet today." And like all these like real suspect looking texts.
Right, and it's always when in the beginning, and it still is the Colombians.
Yeah.
We still say the Colombians a lot, but like, oh, what are you into, or what's going on? And we heard about this coffee thing, and it's like, oh yeah, the Colombians, and everybody's like, oh yeah, super suspect. I was already working with the state police too when I started that, and I was like, they're like, oh, what else do you do? And I'm like, oh, we do this coffee stuff with the Colombians, and they're like, that's enough.
Don't need to know that.
Move on. And I
We
was
got
like,
enough open cases.
you guys want to try some? And they're like, no. So now pretty much the whole tag team is drinking Caveman Coffee.
That is
So
rad.
that's cool. They run
I
on
gave
that.
some to Daredevil and the Punisher on that show Daredevil. That is, and so I don't know if they got it or not. We'll see because it'll be out next season.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking that I have like the Daredevil and Punisher in their suits drinking Caveman coffee. Yeah.
Ugh, love
so
it.
sick. Anyway, yeah, good.
On it? How about on it?
Onnit.com.
Yeah.
What happens at Onnit?
They
It ain't all about the ayahuasca over there at Onnit.
It's true.
It's a human optimization, kind of like a kingdom over there.
Hey, you know that I started going back to paramedicine and school and kind of learning things, and that alpha brain, I'll tell you what.
I take it every day.
So do I.
How many you take?
I take the little packets in the morning.
Yeah.
I know that one only
The
has
ones-
one.
Yeah.
But I take 2 on top of that. So I take 3 probably in the morning.
Does it give you farts?
No.
Okay. Because a lot of that stuff, like emergencies and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff that dilutes in water,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just like a little package of farts right there.
No.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
They sent me some of that, the packets. I haven't tried them yet. They're on my counter in LA.
No. The packets that are the
I thought you meant the ones that dissolve in water.
that's the like 180, I think.
Okay.
But I'm talking about it's
They have
fighter
an actual
proof.
alpha brain that is that.
It's fighter proof. Let me tell you, they have
Okay.
a day pack and a night pack, and it has vitamins in
Perfect.
it. It has like an alpha brain. It has a new mood in the evening time. Like this shit is legit.
You know
Onnit's
how I
got it
take
figured
it,
out.
man? I take 4 new moods
Okay.
before I go to bed, about an hour before or something.
Okay.
And then I'll take 6 alpha brains.
Dude. No wonder they are always out when I try to order.
And I sleep fucking with the best dreams and like a baby. I wake up feeling great. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's like recovery while I'm asleep times 1,000. I
Right.
do that and I drink like a recovery drink from Stronger, Faster, Healthier Proteins. And it's awesome. That's
Yeah.
good living to me right
Yeah.
there. That's all that. Yeah.
I'm thankful that they put all this shit in the
I was
little
like, I didn't even know
packets.
people took it in the daytime.
No, they do a daytime packet of
I'm gonna have to start
whatever
fucking with
is
that.
in it.
I gotta get my guy to send me those.
You just there's like 5 pills in it. It's like your
rad.
daytime thing, and then you take one at night, and it has a
I
new
gotta
mood
double
in
that
it.
up. I'm bigger than the regular human.
This is true,
You know?
and so I double up my alpha brain though,
Then I gotta
especially
go
when I
times
go to
4.
work.
I mean, look at your little ass.
I know. Well, I'm moving up, you know.
Well.
Well.
All right,
Yeah.
Onnit.com.
Definitely.
What about Nuevo Cerveza? Do you ever drink any of that beer? Have you had it?
No, I haven't.
You haven't? God, I gotta get you some.
I know.
It's awesome. That's it's an exciting thing. We're just looking at canning and stuff too. I talked about canning too. We're looking at canning this new drink for Caveman. Have you heard it? Have you had that?
Which one?
It's the tea.
Oh yeah, life changer.
What?
It's
I
game
mean,
changer.
And we're gonna pump that up with caffeine, and it's gonna be the baddest pre-workout ever.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Anyway, that and what about Bloody Maria? You try any of that?
Mm-mm.
MyBloodyMaria.com.
What?
You don't have to go there. I'll bring it to you.
Okay.
But if you're listening, you should go there. And that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's made with green chili from the Rio Grande Valley. It's the only place to get it. Super spicy, good. You're gonna love it.
All right.
I can't believe it. Nobody got you that yet. This is
No, you
bullshit.
think you know a guy?
I know a guy that knows a guy.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
What else? Do you ever do floats?
No.
When you come to LA next, we'll go down to my guys in Torrance, and they have this beautiful thing where there's isolation tanks, and you go into your own little place.
Oh, floats. I thought you were talking about like
root
beer floats.
I know. Are you dieting right now or something? You're just thinking of dessert?
I'm always thinking about food. Yes, I have.
good.
I have floated a few times. Here.
Where?
There's a place here, Enlighten.
Do you go to sleep?
something. No.
I get into like a trance for like 15 minutes, and then I just kind of come to an hour later.
Right. You know what I felt was really good was doing it right before, during camp.
Yeah.
Because so you do that visualization,
Yeah.
And
what I didn't like about that though is that, like, what I don't know if you don't know what, like, floating, like, you're in a isolation tank, you're in salt water that is like, I don't know how many hundreds of pounds of salt. It's like very dense salt water, so you're super buoyant, but every little cut and every Velcro burn, you feel everything in there.
Absolutely.
But they go numb after a few minutes and whatever.
I think it's amazing. I think it's so cool.
The craziest thing about it, not just mentally for me, but like I noticed one time I was in there and I went dunk dunk, and like my cervical spine, there's like a spinal decompression, and I never knew that was part of the deal. They're like, oh yeah, this is why it was developed.
Right.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's ultimate relaxation.
I think it's amazing. Well, you know what? I think it's hard for people that, like, here it's like, oh, the start time is an hour.
Right.
Well, that's a long time if you're not used to any type of meditative practice.
Right,
or
right.
I'm going to lock you in this tube and you're going to be floating in there for an hour by yourself. It's super dark. You can't see your hand in front of your face type thing, you know. And I think an hour is a long time for people because people are like turned off by that. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I go in for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
No issues.
Right?
It's awesome, man.
It's
a treat.
great.
It's a treat. And it seems like a long time because it seems like you're taking time out of your day. And it seems like, who's got an extra hour and a half in the day? I'm already busy all the time. But, like, to do it, man, I can't do it enough. Like, I can see why Joe put one in his house. Like, it's
right.
That's the first time I did it was when I was living at Joe's house in the basement. And I'd just walk down the fucking hall and I'd be like, guess I'm going to crawl in this crazy coffin looking thing.
Yeah.
Then it was dope, man.
It's like, where do you go to? Like, you go into some weird places and, you know, and it takes a few times. Like, maybe the first time it's not what you thought it was or whatever, but like, you got to get there and man, you're reaching those levels of your subconscious that you just, you need to allow yourself to go into.
It's another type of discipline in your mind in a different way than activity is, or than, you know, trying to restrict or encourage different behaviors. But like doing that in solace in your mind and trying to create different routes of thinking and pathways, it's crazy.
Right. It's weird.
I always get down in my head a lot. Like, I'm always trying to like chip off the hard edges and try to get better and whatever. And so I talk a lot of shit to myself. And then I started thinking about coaching and how you self-coach. And I'm like, you wouldn't coach your friend like that. You wouldn't coach an athlete like that and be like, come on, you motherfucker. You wouldn't talk to them that way. You know what I mean? It's
so
like,
why do you do
you'd be
yourself?
like, keep your hand up or watch your posture. You'd tell them things that were cues that they could adopt right away in the moment. And so I started talking to myself like that more. But like the last time I was in a meditation, I was thinking about, I'd done some stupid shit and like just fucking forgotten. And I was like, how much of this is brain trauma? How much, like, and I start going into all that conversation. And I go, the more you're fucking talking about this in a disempowering way, the more it holds on you and the more real it gets. And so, and I start my meditation and I just go, and it starts off and I go, oh, my brain. And I'm just talking to myself in my head. And then I go, is beautiful, is open, is nurturing. And I just go through these adjectives until the timer goes off 5 minutes later or whatever. And I go, and it's like, that's the way to program your brain. The other thing I do, I take that alpha brain and shit, and before I go to bed, and I just go, I'm just going to think positive shit about whatever, because the dude was like, you're in a prolonged state of meditation when you sleep.
Right.
If you have troubles, if you argue with your chick, if you, like, whatever it is, you're thinking about the sour parts of your life, good. You're going to embed that in your brain for the next 8 hours or however long you sleep. And if you want to have a worse life, keep doing that.
Right.
And all that stuff to me, like when I talk about all this stuff, like what do I take or how do I move? Or, it's just like, how do I make my life better?
Right.
You know?
And that's great. You know what? The beautiful thing is I found that through yoga. through my yoga practice, you know, and trying to teach that too. Like, what's your self-talk like, man? Like, life is hard. Life is so hard, and you're going to put somebody else up against you? That's crazy.
No need to beat yourself up more.
That's crazy.
It's tough enough.
That's it. Yeah, you're going to get beat down for sure, but at least have yourself on your side.
Yeah.
Because if you can't help you, then
I
who
started
else
doing
will?
that thing too. I started going, what would you give to advice for your best friend? If this were your best friend, would you tell them to do what you're doing right now? And like more oftentimes than not, no.
Right. Like,
but I
don't
hold
do that.
myself to some kind of crazy superhero standard that it's like, I'll put myself in the fucking worst positions possible. And I'll be like, why would you do that? You would never suggest that to your best friend, that they keep doing that behavior, or whatever,
Right.
keep dating that person, keep doing this, keep doing whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
and so I was like, you need to start being your own best friend. Like, what the fuck is keeping you from that?
Right.
It's kind of like when you talked about the selfishness of fighting earlier, and like, and it is, and there can be the downside to that, but the upside to that is really learning how to get on your own side, which
Right.
is what I think that it's easy to suffer from for humans. Like, a lot of us are not on our own side.
And you can see it. You can physically see it when it happens. Even when I'm teaching yoga and somebody falls out of something, or they're trying to handstand or whatever, and it's like they fall out, and it's like, oh, fuck. In yoga class. Like, dude, you're in yoga class. You got your ass out of bed and went to class. Why is that not a celebration for yourself?
Right.
But now you're mad because you tried something new and you
Right.
fell out. Like, man, what are we doing to ourselves,
Yeah.
you know?
And then then the other thing comes up. Are you mad because you really care and you're trying to get to be awesome at that thing? Or are you mad because you fell and you think other people are watching and they should know that I really care and that I'm really trying, so I'm going to be more expressive than it's like the guy in the
Right.
wrestling practice that's like not working very hard until coach is looking, then he's working really
Boom.
hard and he
Yeah.
wants to show how hard he's working. And it's like that kind of thing. It's like,
Who are
how
you
about you just
working
be
for?
a consistent hard
Yeah.
worker, and we're just going to get the work done.
Yeah.
We're just
Who
doing work
are
today.
you working for?
Yeah.
Who is it? You
That's
know?
why I think that Greg, I always marvel at him, like what a psychological master he is, because he's seen every sort of dysfunction and powerful attribute in the kind of most dark way, like in ways where it's like it counts. It's like it's happening in the moment right now, and I see what comes out in men. And it's like under
Right.
that kind of pressure, like you learn a lot about people. I told him last week, I was like, you got to write a book, man, and not just like
Yeah.
like the book people want to read, like behind the scenes gossip of MMA or whatever, but like
Right.
a book about that, man, about
Yeah.
humanity and the human mind and steering that towards power. Because I don't think anybody knows as well as him. He's that guy's a master.
One of the most influential, most powerful people I've ever met.
It's amazing.
No question about it. He can say one thing and you're like, yeah, that's
He
gold.
could easily,
That's
like
gold.
Keith said one time, he's like, I was talking about that. He goes, oh yeah, he could easily be a cult leader or anything. Like
He could.
he's got.
And as where do you turn that energy? Exactly, like we find these paths.
Yeah.
He could have been the dude that had people drinking the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? Like,
Easy. I would have drank it.
I would have.
And I'm a smart motherfucker.
I
would have followed that guy wherever.
Absolutely.
And still today, he calls whatever you need, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything. And that's the crazy thing too, is that remember him getting interviewed, and there's everybody's in the room, and like Luau Su and George and all these guys, and these guys are like, you've never fought before. Do you ever feel like these guys all have their time in the light and you don't, and like do you ever have any misgivings about that or whatever? And it's and when he says the question, I was just thinking, you don't even understand him at all, and he is always so generous and gracious and kind. Yeah. And he says, oh no, he says, I have the best job in the world. I get to help, and he points to all not these 5 guys that are all champions, and like a room full of 60 dudes. He says, I get to help all these guys reach towards their dreams. He's like, what better is there than that, than to help empower these guys? And it's like that, it's a life of service that he's had, and fucking believe me, maybe it looks like money, maybe it looks like lights. That's for fun and for free. Right. That's because that dude just had a thing that he wanted to give to everybody, and there was no fucking payback in it, except for what he got spiritually and mentally, and like fuck.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah,
he's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you got to go.
Go
out there and hug some people. Thank you so much. And remember, cavemancoffee.com, onnit.com. I don't know, Nuevo Cerveza. Mm-hmm. Concrete Cowboy, and a real big thanks, Jodie. I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
taking the time, and love you. And
Love you.
And I look forward to seeing you on Invicta. And please, everybody out there that has Twitter, would you just hit up Invicta and be like, hey, where's Jodie at? What's going on? Because, I mean, let's get active. I want to see all that.
Let's do it.
All right. Love you.
Okay, love you.
Stay good, people. Bye.